.33 was dipped underwater.
Wow.
It was negative numbers. It was -2.
What? Coach Greg, and today I'm commenting on Ronnie Coleman, 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman was on the Joe Rogan podcast. Maybe one day I'll be on that podcast. It's an hour and a half, but at about an hour and 6 minutes plus, they get into Ronnie Coleman's body fat percentage, and trust me, everybody wants me to comment on his body fat percent. Why? Because I read the DMs. I do. I read a few of them. Not a lot. But there was about 20 that said, hey, 0.33% body fat. Let's see whatever. Okay. Ronnie Coleman has been saying this for about 20 years. I met Ronnie Coleman, I believe it was at the 2000 drug-tested Canadian National Championships. I was lightweight. I was 149 pounds. I was ripped. But I wasn't huge, and I did win the competition, and Ronnie Coleman gave me my prize. But before he gave me my prize, I ran into him in an elevator. This was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. I had met bodybuilders before, and I thought, man, that guy's so big. Wow. Heavyweight bodybuilders, super heavyweights and stuff. And I'm in this elevator. There's this old Grandma Josephine, and I are in the elevator. And Ronnie Coleman walks in. He's carrying a kit bag. He's in his track pants. And I look over, and I literally am just like, what am I witnessing right now? And I look at the grandma, who's probably 80 plus years old, and she looks at me, she looks at him, and I look at her, and we look at each other. And if I had said, this is an alien from Krypton, she would have said, well, obviously, no way he's from the planet Earth. I am not kidding. There was more chance that that human being was from another planet than from this Earth. It is mind-blowing the amount of muscle that I saw in that man. It was incredible. I can't express how freakishly ridiculous it was. I believe it was 5 or 6, maybe it was 8 weeks out, whatever. He was close to the Mr. Olympia when he was at his best ever. He was about 5% body fat. He had striated glutes, guest posing at a weight of 295 pounds. It was mind-blowing. I'm saying he was 5%. He would claim he was 2%, whatever. It was crazy. I just had to share that story because it was mind-blowing. So then Ronnie Coleman goes on the Jay Leno show. He's on the show, and I'm excited because it's Ronnie Coleman, it's the Mr. Olympia on the Jay Leno show in an interview. And they get into, what's your percent body fat? And he says, I'm a 0.33% body fat, 0.33%. He says, I was actually negative percent. I was negative percent. And I'm thinking, I've studied this in university, and even without studying, you can't have a negative body fat percent. But do you know what happens? It's an error. It's a calculated error. It's a degree of uncertainty. The problem is, body fat tests are not 100% accurate. The underwater testing, hydrostatic weighing test, the dunk test, is not 100% accurate. It's based on the density of your bone mass, your lean mass, how dense it is, and how much you weigh underwater. And based on that, it guesses what your percent is. I did that test myself. I was 7.4%, and it was approximately 1.5 weeks out from a bodybuilding contest at university. I was pretty shredded. At the time, the body fat test that I used, the calipers, had me between 7 and 8%, and the hydrostatic test, it also had me there. That's probably somewhat where I was at the time. It was roughly accurate for me. But different people have different bone density, and based on that, there's error. Okay? Different ethnicities also have different bone densities. So it had him as a negative percent. Why? Because his bone density would have been higher, and so he would have weighed more, and it would have guessed, hey, this can't be, it must be a negative percent. So was he in fact 0.3%? No, of course he's not, he would be dead. There's essential fat, and a fat amount that you need to live. It doesn't need to be under the skin. You could be shredded, be like, oh man, there's no fat there, none. Shredded, you can see through the skin almost. It still means you're 3% body fat. You cannot physically be under 1%. And there's an argument. Yeah, but it's Ronnie Coleman, he's huge, he's on anabolics, he's not natural, so he can be leaner. No, you can't be 0.3%. Let's say he was 4% at 200 pounds of muscle, and he added 200 pounds of muscle. Well, you could argue, well, if he's 4% at 200 pounds and added 200 pounds, maybe it halves it. Maybe there's no added fat, it's just muscle. Maybe because there's so much extra muscle, the percent goes down. Sure, let's go with that. Let's say he has double the muscle of a normal person, 300 pounds of muscle, maybe he should only be 150. It can only half it. If 3%, let's argue that 3% is the least you could go. If he adds double the muscle that anyone would ever have, maybe it's 1.5. Let's give him that. Let's give him 1.5 that you could physically get to before you're dead. It's not 0.3%. It's not 0.33%. He says
2% body fat. We had our body fat done at the police department. And the highest I ever got was 3%.
And that was with calipers?
Yeah, your calipers. And
Did
stuff.
you ever do a
The
dunk?
one I had, the 3.33 was dipped underwater.
yeah, so there's a hydrostatic weighing test, yes. There's a DEXA scan. You can do all kinds of tests. There's a skin fold caliper test, yes, but the skin fold caliper test is not one test. There's dozens of these tests. Just because was it the caliper test? It's not one caliper test. There's several. It's like saying in school, I got 100 on the school test. Which one? English, math, French, science, phys ed, what one? The same thing happens on a skin fold caliper test. There are several. You might get 3% on one and 7 on the other and 5 on the other and 6 on the other. Just like in school, you might get a 98 on your English exam, but only a 63 on your freaking math exam because you're not good at that one. Skin fold calipers test is not one test. So if you go and say, oh, I was in the caliper test, it's not a caliper test. You were tested with the caliper. Which of those tests did you use? There's several. So don't just say, oh, I did the caliper test. It's a pet peeve of mine. Which caliper test? So Ronnie Coleman, he said this for years. On the Jay Leno show, he said he was 0.33% body fat, and I laughed. I was like, there's no way he thinks that. But then he went on a James Hunter interview, I don't know, maybe it was 5 or 6 months ago, I don't remember. I watched it, and he said again, yeah, I'm a shredded 0.33% body fat, and at 2% and 3% and all this stuff. And he's on the Joe Rogan, I'm getting, oh my God, wait till Greg reads this. Ooh, let's send him this. This is old news, it's 19 years ago, I think it was on the Jay Leno show. 19 years ago I've been knowing about this. I've known this forever. I've known this more than some of you have been alive that Ronnie Coleman's been saying 0.33% body fat and off-season 3%. No, Ronnie Coleman in the off-season wasn't 3%. Let's say he was. 3%, 320 pounds, 330, 315, depending on the interview, he changed his weight from 315 to 320, 330 off-season. If he only went from 3% to 0.3, that's 2.7% pounds of fat that he lost. 2.7% of 320 pounds is less than 10 pounds. So you telling me that he varies his weight by only 10 pounds off-season to contest-ready shape? So if he's 330 in the off-season, he'd be 320 contest shape minus the water. He'd be at least 300 pounds. So why is he competing in the 200s? Because his body fat isn't actually 3% off-season. 3% is leaner than 99.99% of bodybuilders who compete. Even Andreas Munzer isn't walking around at 2% body fat on stage with diuretics. Nobody is that lean. Off-season, Ronnie Coleman is shredded. He's always shredded. And by shredded, I mean single-digit body fat. Single digits, under 10%. But no, he's not 3% on stage. Maybe with some caliper test that doesn't work. Maybe with a hydrostatic weighing test that's not actually accurate. There's a degree of error in all of these tests. Maybe even on a DEXA scan, he's at 0.3%. But it's not accurate. You need really an MRI to see how much body fat you have, or better yet, You have to die and then look at the fat that's left, weigh all the fat out, and then decide. There's an obsession with having a low percent body fat number. We all want the lowest percent. It's almost like Jeff Cavalier wants to be able to lift 500 pounds in a deadlift, so he uses fake plates. Body fat percents, people give out fake percents. I'm 9% body fat. I could say I'm 6, people would believe it. I'm pretty freaking lean. But I'm not going to exaggerate my number. And so what do? You do every single test, you find the one that you like, and you comment on it. I could do the hydrostatic test, the skin fold caliper test, but it's not one skin fold caliper test. There's 10, let's say. I get all 10 of those tests, and I pick the best one for me. Hi guys, I'm 5.1% on the skin fold caliper test. Jeff Cavalier did it too. He made a video about his body fat percent, and they did the test, and they tested all in the wrong spots. I think it was Jesse. I watched that video. The testing was done in the wrong locations. They pinched the body fat in the wrong spot, and then it's like this. So just imagine, if you're supposed to pinch your fat here, and you pinch it there, does that count? If you're supposed to pinch your fat here, and you pinch it there, does that count? It changes. Wherever you pinch, it's going to give you a different reading. If it says pinch near the belly button and you pinch up on your obliques, it's a different number. Same as these body fat tests, they're not all accurate. So you're going to pick the one you like and then talk about it. And you're not really lying, are you? It's not really a lie. So I can't really get mad at somebody like Ronnie for saying what percent he was tested at because they tested him at. It's not his fault the caliper sucks. It's not his fault. The person doing the testing's an idiot or a moron. I didn't do the test. The best, most accurate test on this planet Earth is my freaking laser eyes. You all know it. Do not freaking ask me your body fat. Do you know how many times I have to delete body fat percent requests a day? Way too many. Way too many. I'm not answering your body fat. You have to hire me. If you pay for a phone consult, I'll give you your body fat. Oh, it's too much money. Then you don't get the best, most accurate laser eye treatment in the world for body fat assessment. I bet I'm less than a DEXA scan. I know for sure I'm less than an MRI, and it's better than dying and having to get your body fat tested at that point. So do whatever you want, but your body fat is not accurate. So Ronnie Coleman, getting back to Ronnie Coleman. The man is a freak, a phenom. If you haven't seen this guy in person in his prime, you missed out on one of the most incredible sights you'd ever see. I will never forget that moment in the hotel with Ronnie Coleman in the elevator with Grandma Josephine. And I'm sure, well, she's not alive anymore, I bet. She was pretty old. But I bet she'd never forget that moment either. I don't think that if Superman himself came to Earth and did his laser beam eye vision and burn a hole through that elevator, that I would have remembered that any less or more than Ronnie Coleman with his freakishly huge physique. 33-inch quads with 5% body fat, with arms over 23 inches. It didn't make sense. What also didn't make sense was he was guest posing at a drug-tested natural competition. With all us natty bodybuilders, well, not everyone was natty. A couple of the bigger guys were, but whatever. Not everyone's natty at a natty show. I actually was. You can believe me if you want. Don't need to. Whatever. Saying, oh no, Coach Greg wasn't natural. It's a compliment. If you think I was natural, it's an insult. You look natty to me back there, Coach Greg. What? If people call you not natty, that's the compliment you want to hear. You do not want someone to say you look natural. That's an insult. I'd rather be called a moron. I'd rather be called an idiot or ugly or a manlet or whatever. Being called natty sucks. When I answered the question, is Jeff Cavalier natural? And I said, if I had to bet, I would bet on the side that no, he's probably not natty. And he gets so offended that, oh my goodness, I have to make a post and I only make one post every 5 years. For that, why doesn't the post say thanks for the compliment? Boom, take that, Coach Greg. Okay, so that settles it. Ronnie Coleman is not, in fact, 0.3%. Don't hate on him. He's not literally lying like Jeff Cavalier was about the fake plates. He's not lying like Brad Castleberry about fake plates. He's not making up a percent. They tested him at that. He's quoting what they told him, so it's not really a lie, even though it's impossible. You can't actually be that percent. Don't believe everything you hear unless it comes from me. And even then, I am only right 99.3% of the time. Get the facts right, guys. 99.3% of the time I'm right. 0.7% of the times I'm wrong. So out of 1,000 videos, I will make 7 mistakes. Okay? So out of every 150 videos, I make 1 mistake on average. Okay? So figure that out. You know, I'm not even right all the time. I make mistakes. GregDoucette.com for coaching. Greg Doucette, IFBB Pro. Follow me on Instagram. Message me, hire me for all this stuff. Buy all my books. Make me rich. Make me happy. Watch one of these 2 videos. You gotta watch one. Come on now. And until next time, I'm out.